Hey folks, the recipe of the day now is going to be a dessert that I love very much. It is the simplest dessert and it is also a very inexpensive dessert. It is called flan. Okay, so here are some of the things that you're going to need. You're going to need a large pan. That's going to be used to set this pan down in, okay? And you're going to need some water. That's going to be used to form a water bath to set this pan in. So we're going to pour water in this pan right here. You're going to need 8 large eggs. You're going to need pure vanilla extract. You're going to need condensed milk, and you're also going to need sweetened condensed milk. I'm sorry, evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk. You're going to need a cup of sugar, some spoons to measure with, and a couple of bowls for mixing. And I'm going to be mixing the eggs in this bowl, and I'm going to be mixing the milk in this bowl, and then I'm going to combine the two. That just ensures that the mixture gets mixed very well. Okay, and I've got some things to mix with here. And stay tuned because I'm going to show you the most important part, and that is making the caramel. Before I get started on making the caramel, I have already mixed the 2 types of milk together, and I've mixed the eggs, and I've added the vanilla extract. That's pure vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon. Okay, and then here I'm going to make sure that there's enough water in the pan to create a water bath for this flan. So here we go. I'm just going to add water. I do this ahead of time, okay, so that I'm sure that I have enough water before I start making the recipe. And the goal is that when the pan, you know, has all the weight in it, there is about, I don't know, it's about halfway full. I guess you can't see that, but it's about halfway up the side of the pan. That's the goal. So once I've done that, I take that pan out and I dry it off on the bottom. It has to be completely clean and dry before the caramel is made. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to come back and make the caramel. Okay, before I started to make the caramel, I went ahead and I mixed the eggs and the milk. And I mixed them pretty thoroughly, but I'm going to give them a final mix before pouring them into the pan and putting it in the oven. I have the oven on bake 350 to preheat. That's very important. And I have already created the water bath, as you guys saw earlier. And I have added a cup of sugar to this 9-inch cake pan. Now this is a red copper pan, and I love these, but you cannot put any metal or anything like that in it. You have to use like a wood or plastic spatula or whatever you're going to stir with. Silicone whisk is the best. Okay, so I'm going to turn the eye on. I'm going to turn it on actually high. Okay, and I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to walk away from this. You really have to stay on top of this because caramel will burn very quickly and it'll just ruin the recipe, and you have to start the sugar melting process all over again. So anyway, just hang tight there. And okay, let me get the camera here. All right, I'm also going to have to use, let's see here if I can get this position better. I'm going to have to use an oven mitt to kind of secure the pan. Okay, and let's see. All right, it is starting to melt, just barely. Okay, and you can kind of see it's in some areas the sugar is getting kind of translucent. All right, and as you can see, I'm using a plastic utensil here to stir with and whatnot. Okay, that's very important because we don't want to damage the pan. That will cause the caramel to stick to the pan. And I have found that this is just about the best pan to use. Some people use a glass casserole. People use many different things to make flan. So as you can see here, we're starting to have melting. All right, this is the part where you have to really stay with it. You can never walk away from this. Okay, you've got to stay with it. You just have to kind of let it magically do its thing. All right, and it's going to stick, and it might stick to your utensil, but if you just put your utensil back in, you know, it'll kind of come off on there, you know, so I don't worry too much about that. So it's starting to heat really quick. I'm going to turn down to medium high now. Okay, I'm going to turn down the heat because we have action here. All right, and I'm going to start swirling the pan around, which is kind of hard to do. Hold on, let me set this down so that I can do this safely. All right. And I couldn't find my other oven mitt, so I'm just going to have to kind of improvise with this one. But I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to kind of move the pan around so that the melting happens more evenly. Okay, and I'm going to set that back down. Be careful if you're using a towel or something like this, because you could catch it on fire on the eye. But just so happens I'm real careful with this, and I've kind of mastered the art. But I'm going to kind of remove it from the eye every once in a while, just for a few seconds, just to kind of give things a stir. Okay, some people say don't stir it. I think it's better to stir it because I just think it helps get things going a little bit more evenly. Okay, now I'm going to set it back down. All right, and this is what it looks like right now. It looks horrible. It looks like a terrible mess, like it's never going to work out. But just stay patient. Okay, and you have to control the heat. Like I said, I turned it down to medium-high. And I'm going to do some more stirring here. I wish I had a bird's eye view way of setting up my camera, but I don't. This absolutely smells delicious, by the way. Okay, and as you can see, I'll show you here in just a second what it's doing now. And like I said, it looks terrible. It looks like it's not going to work out. And by the way, make sure that whatever utensils that you use are clean and very dry, because if there's any water, this will crystallize and it will turn out just awful. Okay, so it's continuing to melt, Now we're really getting somewhere. Okay, and as you can see, I removed it from the eye to control the heat. I don't want it to get too dark. I don't want to burn my caramel. It's getting at a stage where it's very crucial that I control the heat and pay a lot of attention to what's going on. Now, some recipes will call for 3/4 of a cup of sugar, but I say 1 cup because you're going to lose some to the pan and you're going to lose some to your utensil. Okay, so anyway, this is what we have now. I'll show you with the camera. This is weird doing this just like with one hand, but so it's almost complete. The caramel is almost completely smooth. The sugar is almost completely melted. All right. And when it gets completely melted, I'm going to pick the pan up with both hands and with something in either hand to protect my hands. And I'm just going to swirl that pan around and get that pan completely coated. All right. So here we go. It's going to start getting interesting here in a minute. All right. Pretty much all the sugar is melted. Going to remove it from the heat again because, like I said, got to control that heat. And you might have some sugar stick to the sides or whatever. That's not going to hurt things too much. It's really not. Don't worry too much about that, as long as it's not, a lot. So here we have this beautiful caramel. And I don't have a lot of time to show it to you because I'm going to have to work really fast. All right? As I said, I have this tilted up off of the eye. Do not, under any circumstances, get this on you. You will be screaming. You will scream your brains out. I promise you, you will. Okay, so now that it's completely melted, like I said, this is hard to do with one hand. I'm going to just swirl this pan around and around and around, over and over again, like you see. All right, with protection on both hands. Probably some really thick oven mitts or something like that. And then I'm just going to swirl it, all right, until the pan is completely coated. All right, going to have to step away from the camera for just a second. Sorry, folks. All right, and as you can see, still swirling. Sorry the light isn't great, but just trying to show you, coated. And we have to keep any fabrics or anything like that away from the stove eye, all right? And so this is what you have, okay? See how it's all coated on the sides and on the bottom? This is getting crazy. All right. I do have a few little sugar clumps, but like I said, don't worry too much about those. You're gonna all, sometimes have a few. If you keep letting the caramel cook, though, to melt those little bits of sugar or whatever, you will wind up with a real mess. So once the pan is all coated, you're gonna set it aside. I've got, 3 or 4 little clumps in there, but the sides are all nicely coated. Now you can see that. Okay, now I'm gonna let it sit for a minute, okay? And I'm going to give the, I'm going to turn the eye off for one thing. It doesn't need to be on. And I'm going to move this stuff out of the way. And it doesn't hurt if you let the caramel sit up. And by the way, the best way to get rid of caramel is boiling water. You can also scrape this off. You're going to have some stick to some stuff. So I'm going to stir the egg and milk mixture one more time before I place it in here. And I'll be right back. Okay, I wish the lighting was better, but it's not. But I have the water bath. I have the pan filled to where it's halfway up the side of the pan that has the flan in it. And I have poured the milk and I have poured the milk and egg mixture inside the pan. And please note, there was not any oil or anything in that pan when I made the caramel. Please do not put anything in the pan. It has to be clean and dry. So I'm going to bake this now for about 20 minutes, and then I'm going to check on it like every 2 or 3 minutes after that. So stay tuned. Okay, I have removed the flan from the oven. I've removed it from the water bath. As you can see, that water bath is insanely hot. It's boiling, probably. This is a very dangerous step. So you must remove this pan very carefully, that water doesn't splash on you and burn you. And here I'm just going to kind of let this set up. And how I'll loosen this from the sides is by use of a chopstick, because it's not going to damage my pan. Okay. And I'm going to do this very carefully, all right? And I'm going to let it set for 2 or 3 minutes before I even start this. You could even let it set a little bit longer. And how you tell it's done, I'll show you that. Okay, you're going to take your hand, I guess while it's still in the oven. You have to do this very carefully because you have to kind of pull the rack out some so that you can reach this without burning the top of your hand. Okay, but as you can see, I press on it and it's kind of springy. You know, it's firm. It's not like I don't come up with liquid on my hands. Okay, so, and you'll notice there'll be some browning on the top, just a little. There shouldn't be much. But I'm going to go all the way around the pan here with this chopstick to try to loosen some of this up. And then I'm going to let it sit for a little while longer, maybe 5-10 minutes. And then I'm going to do that again. Okay. And then I will show you how to plate it. And that's also kind of a tricky process. You're going to need 2 plates that are kind of large in order to do this. And stay tuned, I'll be right back. I have gone around the sides with a chopstick again. You could also use like a plastic butter knife to loosen the sides. And I have placed this on a large plate. It's like a large square plate. Okay, large enough to fit the pan around. I guess you can see that. Alright, and then I'm going to put the other plate, on top of the pan. Okay, and this would be kind of hard to do. I'm going to try to do it in front of the camera, but I'm not sure if I can. But the goal is to flip it. Okay, so let's see if I can do this flip right here. Okay, with this lousy camera setup I've got going on. Alright, I'm going to take the plate here. Alright, and as you can see, I got it like this. Okay, I'm going to flip it. I'm going to set it back down. Alright. And let's see what we have here. Whatever we have here, I'm sure it's going to be delicious. Okay, so then I'm going to try to remove the pan. Hopefully it all comes off really nicely. And there you go. There's a nice little flan now. Pretty, huh? It's not perfect. There's a little problem right there, but I should have probably used something maybe a little different there to loosen it from the sides. It might have needed to cool a little bit more, but it's going to be delicious. And the way that you serve this is you cool it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours, and then you slice it into 8 slices, and then you top it with whipped cream and cherries. That's the typical way, or you can just have it like it is. But this is a really nice flan. You can also use a fancier platter. You could use different pans. You know, you could use the bundt cake pans and all to make a fancier flan and all. This is not a fancy flan. This is just a recipe that will give you an idea on how to go about making flan. And as I said before, be sure to follow all the safety precautions. Keep your hands covered with oven mitts. Handle the water bath very carefully because it's going to be very, very hot. And try to keep the caramel off your skin because it will send you into a screaming fit. And to remove the caramel from surfaces, you know, you could just place a hot, wet towel and then it should come right up. And if you have it stuck to utensils or anything like that, pour boiling water on them. And the pan, as you can see, it's still a little sticky. You can pour boiling water in that also, and it'll just come loose, it'll dissolve, it'll come right out. So I hope you enjoyed my recipe for flan. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.